This is a story of 40 days, no numbing, no noise, just me, the creator, and the truth. This is the BS4 podcast, and I'm your host, Bria Villa. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the BS4 podcast. I'm your host, Bria Villa. If you are new here, welcome. If you have been here, welcome back. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, rate, leave a review in the podcast show notes. Make sure that you comment on this episode and say that you are here, that you are present, that you are locked in. And share it with a friend if you haven't yet. But thank you so much for being here. If you are new here, go back and listen to some of the older episodes. It'll give you more insight on who I am, why you should be here. There's been so many good topics covered so far. I've been doing this for 6 months now, which is wild to think about. There's probably as many episodes now as there are about half the weeks in a year. So literally 6-month anniversary. And I am so proud of how far this has come. I'm also so proud of where it's going to continue to go. So thank you for tuning in. That being said, I wanted to talk about something that I actually did recently. Today is the last day of a 40-day fast that I have done. And I want to talk about fasting. I want to talk about the impacts of it, etc. So before I get into it, today the B is for bear. Being honest, being emotional, being stripped of numbing, and being deeply human, taking everything down to bare bones. Fasting is not about what you're giving up. It's about what you're making room for. For 40 days, I said no to weed and no to sweets, which was really big for me. I already don't drink, so alcohol was kind of in the fold of that already. But no to weed when your girl is from California and has been smoking since high school on and off, and no to sweets. So no sugar, no candy, no desserts, when I'm the queen of having a little sweet treat after dinner, was very big for me. So yeah, for 40 days, I said no to weed and no to sweets. But deeper than that, I said yes. Yes to clarity. Yes to discipline. Yes to feeling it all. I didn't do this to prove that I'm strong. I did it to meet the parts of me that only show up in stillness, in the absence of numbing. I used to think that strength is how I could hold it all together, when in this fasting season, I learned it's how willing I am to fall apart and not need to escape it. Fasting is defined by a voluntary abstinence, but to me, it's more like a spiritual and sacred reset, a reclaiming of your mind, your body, and your soul. In this episode, I am going to walk you through the science of what happens when we fast, how our brains reset, our cells repair, and our emotions resurface. I'll also take you through the spiritual undercurrent, the things that I actually heard in the silence, the boundaries that became very clear to me, and the woman I used to be, and how proud she is of me now. So whether you've been curious about fasting, or just want to hear what happens when a woman gets real quiet and real clear, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. This is a story of 40 days, no numbing, no noise, just me, the creator, and the truth. Okay, so you may be thinking what led me to do this fast. And honestly, I wish I could say that it was like some big spiritual reset that I had that led me to do it. But the reality was Natalia told me that she was going to fast for Lent. And it originally started as me wanting to support her. So when she said she was going to give up sweets for Lent, I was like, oh, I'll do it with you. Like, that's how it started. So it wasn't necessarily like something that I was doing for Lent, but I wanted to support her originally. And I view a lot of power in fasting. So I was like, yeah, I'll give up sweets with you. And then as I started to reflect it and it was coming up to the day that we were going to start our fast, I was like, okay, but what's something that I need to give up? Sweets is something that I didn't feel like was going to be too difficult for me. Obviously, like, it's not easy, but I also was like, that'll be challenging, but that also feels like something that I'm kind of doing with her. What's something that I'm going to do for me in the season if I'm going to go all in. And so I told myself that I was going to give up weed. And if you know me, you know that I don't drink. Alcohol just like hasn't been for me. And weed is something that has just been like a part of, it's been a level of normalcy for me. Growing up in California, started smoking in high school. It's just been like regular. So I've had ebbs and flows of smoking. I have gone like a couple years without smoking and then went back to it. But I would say pretty much since high school, I've been on and off a smoker. With the exception that like I'm not an all day smoker. I'm not someone who just like is high all the time. It was similar to me. The best way I could describe it is in the same way that people have a glass of wine at night to like wind down. I would just, smoke a little joint. And that was like my normal thing. So definitely wasn't something that I was doing all the time or something that I felt like I had a problem with. I just felt like it was a part of my like normal routine. And funny enough, going into this fast recently, I really started to get anxiety when I was smoking, and that's never been a problem for me. It was at one point in my life, but in like college, like it's been so long since I actually like felt this way. And I would say the last few months, I've just been getting a little bit anxious and like feeling off when I smoke, which is not something that I've ever dealt with. And I felt like a part of me was wrestling with it for a while because I was like, this is part of my normal like routine, but it's not making me feel the way that I used to feel. And so leading up to this fast, I felt like I had already been kind of questioning if I should just like take a break and stop. And so I was like, you know what? Now that I have this fast, let me just go all in and stop smoking for a little while. And so that was actually the thing, I'm going to be honest, I thought that was going to be the hardest thing. Like I thought that was going to be difficult because I would have stressful days or long days and I'd come home and I'd chill. Like once I finished my whole day, then I would like make dinner, smoke, cook. And like, that was just like a like therapeutic thing for me. And so I was like, damn, like that's probably going to be tough. So the original prompting of this was Nat wanted to do Lent. And then I kind of tacked onto it and I was like, okay, I'm going to give up sweets with you. And then I'm going to give up weed, and then also no alcohol. So I haven't been drinking. You all know my kind of like sobriety journey with that. But for those of you who don't know, I went like 3 years no alcohol. Then last year did alcohol on special occasions, but no hard alcohol. And then going into this year, I was like, no, I'm going like completely sober again. And so through the fast, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do alcohol. There was one occasion that I thought I was going to give myself permission for, and then ultimately decided against it. So yeah, I was like, let me just see what comes out of this. Like, how am I going to feel? What am I really looking for? And so going into the fast, I didn't necessarily have a certain outcome that I was expecting, other than like, let's just see what comes from it. And I did go into it with the mindset of like, oh, what am I giving up? But now in reflection, what came out of it was not what I gave up, but what I gained from spending more time focusing on my mind, my body, my spirit, how I felt in certain situations, etc. And so it wasn't just about removing, it was about inviting presence, clarity, and discipline into my life and seeing what the outcomes of inviting those things would be. Emotionally, before I started this fast, I was feeling a little lost. I was feeling frustrated. I was feeling confused because there's just been a lot of things that have been going on in my life that are new to me, and a lot of external factors that I was having to weigh while also trying to manage a really heavy workload. And I don't mean workload in the sense of just my job, but like I have had an abundance of responsibility in this season of my life. And I was starting to get overwhelmed by all the responsibility going into this fast. I felt unclear on my positioning on certain things. I felt weighted and frustrated with the fact that a lot of this responsibility fell on me. And I also felt like I wasn't giving enough time to myself because of all the responsibility that was falling on me. So before the fast, I was not necessarily making time for myself, my development, my emotions. I was burnt out, and I also was extremely tired, like next level version of fatigue. I was exhausted. So keep that in mind because I'm going to share with you how I feel now after the fast. I want to share with you the science behind fasting. So, y'all know I'm a little bit of a nerd. So, I love looking up the science behind things, the benefits to doing things. And so, of course, I looked up the scientific research behind fasting. A few things that are beneficial from fasting from a physical and scientific standpoint. One, it increases insulin sensitivity, which means your body has better blood sugar control, especially if you are cutting out sugar like I did or sweets. Your body is able to re-regulate and increase its insulin sensitivity. That way it's regulating your blood sugar more effectively. So that's one. Two, it triggers your autophagy. Your autophagy, and I had to look up how to say that because what? Your autophagy is your cellular cleanup. It is literally your body healing itself. So it's how your cells kind of repopulate and heal. So if you're fasting, especially when it comes to like intermittent fasting, which is only eating within certain windows of a day, or if you're fasting from certain food groups, for me, sweets, refined sugars, it allows for your cells to repopulate. It also helps lower inflammation. Inflammation in your body can be the number one leading reason to cancer. Last thing you want is a ton of inflammation in your body. This leads to you having better skin, better joints, better mood, healing your gut. And then on top of that, your cells kind of regenerating and cleaning themselves up. It also just boosts mental clarity. Your brain gets sharper in fasted states. So especially if you are, like I said, cutting certain portions out of your diet that aren't necessarily, like we know scientifically aren't good for you. So like eating refined sugars, eating a ton of carbs that turn into sugar increases your insulin, which increases your inflammation in your body, which also slows down your organ function, and your brain is an organ. So reducing that will help you gain mental clarity. And then it also just improves your discipline and cravings long term. So me fasting from sweets, it really, like today is the first day that I'm going to be able to eat sweets. I haven't done it yet, but my craving for it is not the same. Like I used to crave a little sweet treat every night. And when I started fasting, that craving after like a week or two just went away. Honestly, it was wild. Like I wasn't even really thinking about it. But when you feed the craving, you just continue to crave it. So it was really wild for me to experience that. And then I got my fixes of like sweetness just through different approaches. So like eating organic, well-washed fruit, eating things like dates, which have really good, dates have a really good impact on your body, but they're kind of a sweeter fruit. So being able to actually have things that your body digests and breaks down more and is healthier for you versus having some ice cream because your girl likes some ice cream. Okay. Or like having just like a little cake at dinner because your girl likes to do that too. So the scientific benefits to fasting are there. And it is really incredible what you can do, especially if you're doing it at a physical level via diet. Some people do full, like no food, only water fasts, and those are wild. I have yet to do that, but I have known people who actually will go like days and days and days without eating, only drinking water. Power to you. I'm a hungry gal, so that's real tough for me. But it helps you put into motion all those things that I just mentioned. So increasing insulin sensitivity, lowering inflammation, mental clarity, all the things. Fasting is a really powerful tool to kind of like reset your body. So outside of the scientific reasons why fasting is very powerful, there's also the spiritual aspects of fasting that are equally as powerful. Fasting was a little bit more of a spiritual journey for me, a journey that was more focused on what I need to do for myself, what I need to learn about myself, what do I need to listen for. And so I reflected this morning because it was the last day of my fast, and I went and sat outside and journaled for like 30 minutes, just the things that I learned and what really came out of this fast for me. And I would say the biggest things are one, that I can do anything that I put my mind to, and discipline, although it is hard, it is worth it because the discipline that I had benefited no one but me, especially in this fast. I think the second piece was the way that I talk to God and hear God was really shifted for me. So I always thought about how I talk to God through the parameters of having the perfect churchy type of prayer. And my personal spiritual journey has shifted away from a lot of the parameters of religion and looking at God as a true holistic creator, loving of all. And I felt like talking to God was a chore because it felt like God would only hear me and I would only hear God through a very perfected way of praying. Like, this is how you start the prayer. This is how you say the prayer. You can't leave this out of the prayer. And it really shifted for me during this fast to where I started to talk to God as if God was a friend. Like how I would talk to my friends, how I talk to myself, like how I talk to the people around me, like genuine, authentic conversations. And that was really eye-opening for me because not only was I being more authentic and leaning in more, I was hearing God more. Like I was saying, look, I don't really know how I feel about this situation. Can you just walk me through this? And like, if this is really meant for me, show it to me. And when I tell you in this 40 days, the signs that I got, the clarity that I got, the knowing that I got was so evident and undeniable, in my opinion, that I knew that because of the way that I shifted things, the more seated in faith I became. And that was really powerful for me. I also am someone who, and this is just to be vulnerable with you all, I am not necessarily going to be the person who talks about my spirituality on this podcast a lot. It is something that I hold closely and it's a big part of my life, but it's a part of my life that feels sacred and not something that I'm necessarily willing to share all the time. And so I gave you kind of a glimpse, but it's not really a topic that I'm going to be covering a lot on here for now. That may change one day, how I feel about it, how I view it. So bear with me because that's just a part of my story and my life that I don't want to like delve too much into on here for now. So give me grace as I do that. But yeah, this was a really big thing for me spiritually to navigate, and I felt really connected during this time, but also very connected to myself. So I took extra time I probably on Blinkist went through like 6 different books to learn more about how to self-reflect and self-love and discipline, and then read the book, The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz, and then reread my notes and bookmarks on the 4 Agreements, and which is also by Don Miguel Ruiz. I'll link both in the bio. So what really came out of this fast that was like so clear to me was the depth of my self-love not only needed to improve, but did during this fast. Like I really felt a shift in the way that not only I talk about myself, but the way I view myself, what I deserve, how to continually show up for myself. There were things that I just did not even negotiate with myself. Eating healthy, cooking regularly, working out frequently, water, skincare routine, meditation, journaling. Like I really leaned into the things that treat me well and started to let go of some of this desire for control that I have in my life of I want things to be a certain way, so I'm going to act this way so that things are this way. And I think that in this fast, there were situations that came up that I feel were perfectly divinely placed for me to go through during the fast so that the lessons that I learned from it helped solidify the self-love pieces. There were a few things during my fast that triggered me that I typically would run from. Or, for example, some of the things that came up, I was like, in the timing in which they came up, etc., it would have been around the time that I'm cooking dinner and smoking, and I would have just smoked and maybe offloaded the emotions until the next day instead of just like feeling them and sitting with them. And like I turned to some of my methods that I've set for myself that sometimes I would put by the wayside because I was high and I didn't feel like journaling or whatever the case is, I actually ended up doing. So like I felt some emotions. I didn't like how they made me feel. I immediately go upstairs, sit in my room, close the door, and journal, like write out all my thoughts. And I feel like this fast really set me up to be able to do that. And I worked through some emotions that I was feeling and genuinely feel like I had a breakthrough during this period of just how I view myself and what I want for myself and the love that I ultimately have for myself. And that was so powerful because I felt not only like self-supported, but spiritually supported. Another example is like, I went to my best friend's wedding and was celebrating with them and was so excited. And at the beginning of this year, I knew that their wedding was coming up at the end of March. And I was like, okay, I'm not drinking this year, but maybe I would allow myself to drink at their wedding to celebrate as a special occasion, etc. And I had even told them, I was like, I'll probably drink at y'all's wedding, like to celebrate you, blah, blah, blah. And we get to the wedding, it's like the day before, and I still have the mindset of like, oh yeah, I'm probably going to drink tomorrow. And I woke up that morning and it was the same day as the anniversary of my brother's passing. And I woke up extra early. I go to the beach. I always do something in nature for my brother on that day. And it's actually the first anniversary that I've had with him that I had like an obligation, because usually I take that day fully to myself. But I had to show up that day. I was in their wedding, like I was a bridesmaid. So, and I wanted to celebrate them and be there for them. And I was honored to do that. So I knew that like the emotions that I was going to feel that day, I was going to have to make time to go and feel. And so I sit on the beach and I'm crying and I'm talking to God and I'm like, this is hard. I want to get through this. I want to get through today. I have so much love for them. I want them to feel my love. Like allow me to like process and feel these emotions and still show up for them wholly. And I just remember sitting there and reflecting, and for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, I think a spiritual reason, it comes in my head of like, you don't need a drink. Like, not you shouldn't, not don't, specifically the words you don't need to drink. And that just like clicked for me. I was like, okay, I was doing it because I wanted it to be like a fun thing to celebrate with them. And I didn't want to be the only person not drinking and etc., which like I'm used to. But I think it was like a very clear knowing that although I have the discipline to turn it on and turn it off, although I've even shared like, yeah, I'd probably like do this to celebrate y'all. And I wouldn't shame myself for doing that either. I was reminded that I don't need to. And that message came through so clear to me. And it was while I was asking for clarity and how I can show up best for them, etc. And I swear to you, I processed all the emotions that I needed to feel. I left them on that beach that morning. I go upstairs. I start to get ready. Of course, I had a few emotional moments while getting ready, but I just knew that the discipline that I've committed to were going to help me be my best self that day. And so I didn't drink, nothing, no sweets, no, nothing. And I had so much fun at that wedding. I sincerely felt every emotion, loving, caring, joyous emotion that I could feel for them, for their union. And I had so much fun without needing a substance. And so, of course, like some people were like, I thought you said you were going to drink. Like, why are you not drinking? Da, 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 da. Like, you should have fun, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just know that this is like how I need to show up today. And I'm so glad that I stuck to my word on that and ultimately made that decision for myself, because I felt so clear in that moment. And now 40 days later, I can really say like entirely sober. And so there was so much that came out of this fast for me that I think was so powerful. And so I have a few questions for you if you're thinking about fasting, if you're considering fasting, and also to talk about like what now for me. So I want you to pause and ask yourself, what are you using to numb right now? When is the last time you just let yourself feel everything? Are you craving a reset, or are you craving yourself? And what might you learn about yourself if you removed distractions? These were things that I kind of was coached to ask myself at the beginning of my fast, and I kind of like worked through during my fast, that have become really clear to me now. So, what now? Like, how do I carry on this version of myself? Are there things that I'm going to be reintroducing? How are my intentions and habits going to shift? One, I will reintroduce sweets. I told myself, I'm like, okay, a little reward for going these 40 days. It's like I'm going to have some ice cream and stuff today. Nothing too crazy, like not jumping in the deep end and eating all sweets all day long today. But yeah, just giving myself a little bit of leeway there. But moving forward, my goal is to limit sweets to 2 days a week. So it used to be like, I just want a little sweet treat after dinner every night, to like, I don't need all that. 2 days a week, that's it, no more. I also am going to stay sober. So I've been feeling for the last couple weeks that I don't need to reintroduce weed into my life for now, and that I'm quite literally going to take it day by day and just keep telling myself just one more day of not doing it, just one more day of not doing it. I just feel really clear. I feel really committed to that, and I feel that it's just not something I necessarily need right now, and I don't really miss it, which is, if you know me, probably surprising to hear, but I don't. And even at times, like sometimes, I live in a state where it's legal. So I'll smell it sometimes, or like I drive by dispensaries all the time. And like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, like it would be nice. But I'm not at a point where I'm like, I have no conviction to be like, yeah, I'm going to go like get some, So I'm going to stay on the sobriety journey, and I will keep y'all posted. I just feel really good about it right now, and I'm enjoying it. So it's going to continue. I also just have a really good appreciation for stillness and for being present. And I came out of this with a stronger spiritual connection to the universe and the things around me, and also a very deep divine connection with myself that I don't think I necessarily had going into this fast. So I just feel really clear right now and really happy, honestly. And I'm super proud of myself for going through this. I want to encourage you to try it if you're thinking about fasting. I think it's a really powerful thing. And you don't have to do everything all at once, but challenge yourself and understand what you may be able to learn from the stillness and what you may be able to gain when you're focusing on other things. So I feel like I'm in a transitional period right now, and I think this was like laying the foundation for this transition for me. So I'm really happy about it. I feel super good. It's definitely going to be an ongoing journey, and I will keep y'all posted, but fasting is a really powerful thing. I highly recommend it. All that to say, you don't have to do a 40-day fast to meet yourself, but you do have to make space to heal, space to reset, space to choose you. If this sparked something in you, it's time to take a pause, to ask what's truly serving you, and to ask what's just noise in your life right now. So if this episode spoke to you, DM me and let me know what you're thinking about fasting. If you're thinking about fasting, if you have questions about fasting, like I want to know, or if you've had really good fasting experiences and positive things came out of it. I think that there is a lot of goodness in store for me. And I think I just kind of closed the chapter on my old life and opened the chapter of my new one through this journey, which is really powerful. And a quote that I heard a while ago is, you can't have one foot in your old life and one foot in your new life and expect your new life to welcome you with open arms. So I feel really good about where I'm going right now, and encourage you to go on this journey if you feel inclined to. And if you have questions, reach out to me and let me know. All that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always here. But yeah, new bee. B is bear. She is bear. She is coming to you real, raw, and evolved for sure. So I hope that y'all have a great week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, rate, all the things. But until next week, I hope you have a lovely day.